still have you up here, Mark, I can get a couple other things from you real quick. So if there's any other loops you want to play for me, or maybe you want to just do like a little melody line in the same key that's like totally out of time that I could just cut on my own. So Mark's recording some melodic stuff for me right now. It's totally out of time, not quantized. If I play that back. Nice. I've got his sample loaded, recorded onto my SD card. So awesome, Mark. You're dismissed. Thank you very much. Give it up for Mark de-Clive, everyone. I mostly make all of my beats using Ableton Live. And this machine that I have in front of me is called an SP404SX. It's called a linear wave sampler made by Roland. And it's kind of an older machine. Essentially, if we can think about this thing as like a drum machine or a sequencer, but instead of just drum sounds, I can load in all different types of sounds. So I could load in samples, I could put entire songs into this machine, and play it back in a sequence, so as a pattern. I have some drum loops that I already loaded in. I'm going to show you guys how I like to cut up drum loops and kind of process and affect drums. And then also, I'm going to chop up Mark's piano a little bit too, and then create a couple of sequences that later, when I get home to my computer, I might record into a computer and then mess with further. We'll start with these little piano bits. This might be a nice little intro. So what I'm going to do first is use some functions to copy this sample over to 3 other pads that I have free here. The rest of my bank is free. So I'm going to press function, copy, and copy this pad to one of my available pads, and then record it. I'm going to do the same thing one more time, copy 3 to 4, and record. So now, 2, 3, and 4 all have the same sample loaded in the pad. So without getting too deep into the whole SP404, just like Mark said, it doesn't really matter what you use, but the point of my demonstration is to kind of illustrate how much more we can do with today's technology and where sampling has started from. So what I can do now is delete my marker. Let's see, delete marker. And now I'm truncating the sample. That's the technical term for it. So I'm eliminating all of the dead space. What this is the equivalent of in a production standpoint is like consolidating your sample. So I'm going to delete. Now all the dead space in my sample is gone. This is my new start point. That's crucial because you guys probably aren't even thinking in this perspective, but my memory card in this machine has 2 gigabytes of memory. So if there's dead space that is at either end of my sample, I need to get rid of it because I need all of that space. So I've got some drums now that I can chop up. I have this drum sample loop that I recorded from, I've loaded it into my memory card. And what I'm going to do now is isolate different parts of my drum break so that I can play a drum pattern. I think the best way to do this actually is, instead of using copies like I did before, I'm going to do what's called resampling, and I'm going to resample the drum break. That's already marked as my kick drum, right? The kick drum begins on the 1. I'm going to mark a snare drum now as my hit on pad 2. It's not quite accurate, so I'm going to adjust the point that I just marked. There we go. So now I have... Now I'm going to get like a hi-hat or some kind of cymbal. So that's going to be an upbeat. Maybe adjust that slightly. Cool. My kick drum, I want it to be nice, big, and boomy, and not so stiff. That's the thing I'm concerned about with these sample chops. They're really stiff, right? So I want to add some room to them probably first. So what I'm going to do, this thing actually also has a built-in multi-effects unit. What I'm going to do is turn the reverb on, and now my reverb is being applied to whatever pads I choose. So now my kick has a little bit of reverb. But it doesn't so much sound like a kick. It kind of sounds more like a cannon or something, or like something that's got a lot of high frequencies. So before I even use reverb, I might go ahead and cut the high frequencies out by using the isolators. Cool, so sounds a little bit more like a kick drum. Now I'm gonna go ahead and resample this with the effect built in to a new pad. So if you guys use DAWs, you're familiar with the concept of resampling. If I have a MIDI instrument on one channel that has reverb on it, and I resample the audio output of that channel to a new channel, then it's gonna have the effect kind of consolidated into my new audio that I've resampled, right? So that's what I'm gonna do here. My effect is currently active, my EQ, so I'm gonna resample to a new pad so that it's just built into my sound, and I could add a new effect layer if I want. Now what I can do is go ahead and add the hi-hat. Cool, so what I'm gonna do now is copy this pattern to the next 4 pads. Copy, copy, copy. And now I have 4 separate scenes that I can build in. So my first scene, I'm gonna do one example of the stuff that Mark just gave me. You guys see how it's acting funny? It's kind of still cool though, I like it. If my sample is longer than when the trigger picks up, it's gonna stop the sample. One thing I thought of, I'm gonna go back to my sample mode real quick and use my pitch tool on the SP404 to create an alternate chord of that same sample. And we're gonna resample that to a fresh pad. And now when I go back to my sequence, I can record that into the same sequence. I have these sequences that I've created now, and I can actually affect all of the pads at one time and kind of create some cool performance style stuff. So let's try some stuff. I'm more inspired sometimes when I have these rules to abide by because I'm not thinking about the idea as much as I'm just trying to obey the weird rules that this machine has for me. Thanks again to Sonos and Dubspot for making this happen. Thanks for being here, you guys. It's been a true honor to be here. Thank you.